Well, here we go. Another mini PD lesson. It's a little late. It's President's Day here in the United States. And so my, family comes first. And so I had to deal with some family stuff. And now we're game on. So I like this one today. I think it's February, almost March. It's this dark gray time of the year and folks can be feeling overwhelmed. And so there was a question in our Facebook group, which if you're not a part of our Facebook group, you need to be immediately. It is only for educators or you're not going to get pitched to in there unless it's me pitching something to you. But no businesses are in there or anything like that. It's just Real Rap with Reynolds teacher talk on Facebook. But there was a question, and I'm not going to say the name. So if this sounds familiar, community member, I will not say your name. But the question in there was, how do you leave work at work emotionally? And so this individual has worked part-time, and then they live 2 minutes from work. They live 2 minutes from their kid's school. And so how do you sort of unplug and then show up at home and be home? One of the things I'm always telling teachers is this idea of be where your feet are. But that can be hard because sometimes your brain's still at school, your feet are at home, and you're not really sure where to even put your heart. So with that in mind, excuse me, this is real world because my phone is blowing up and I don't want to see it blow up. So the question is, what do we do with that? So I have a few ideas. These are things that I've done, that I do on a regular basis, on how I am actually able to leave work at work. I will say on the front end that sometimes things happen that are so enormous that it is very difficult to do that. So this is like on the average, on the regular, when I've lost a student, right? That's different. When I'm talking to a student that has lost a parent, when a really bad fight breaks out at school, or there's some significant kind of drama or shift or change that's happening at school, those things, that's different. And I think everything I'm going to talk about here still applies. But it's not, these things then become not necessarily a solution. They are a momentary reprieve from what you're experiencing at school, right? And I think that you can get better over time with those things, but I think that these still apply. So the first thing I want to talk about today is this idea of intentional transitions. When we are shifting from one place to another, we have to do so with intention. What does that look like in real time? What am I even talking about? When I'm leaving school and going home, I want to do that knowing I'm not just leaving the school and putting my stuff in my trunk and then getting in my car and then driving home and then getting to my house and then coming in and then here I am. It is, all right, I am leaving school. I have this, and if you're not, you can have your own version of this is what I'm about to say. But one of my things is whenever I'm leaving a place, but especially entering a place. So not necessarily like a classroom door or a bedroom door or something like that, but the door to my school, the door to my home, the door to a business. If I'm going out shopping or something like that, I say a quick prayer every single time. I do that because I want to enter into this intentionally and be the person that I want to be and not just the person that happens to show up there. I want to be proactive and not reactive. So before I enter my home, I say a very quick, in a heartbeat prayer of I want to show up intentionally and be the loving presence of peace and joy that I want to be in this place. Do the same thing at school, right? I want to teach my class off every single day. And so I do that. And so whether you're a prayer or not, I don't even know if that's a real word, but we just made it up here. It is entering into that space, knowing what I'm getting myself into to the best of my ability, but at least knowing that I'm being present, I'm being here now, I'm being where my feet are. So how can you do this when you're at school? I think, when we're leaving school, one of the things that you need to be mindful of when you're driving home, let's say, is this idea of what do you need? What do you need right now? Because this is going to look different. I've talked about this a lot. I talked about this. I have a morning routine video that I can even link in the description below. And it'll probably pop up here if you're watching on a PC. I know what I need. So I wake up in the morning, I pray, I meditate. When I'm driving to school, I am not listening to the news. I am not listening to a murder mystery podcast. I am not listening to even music that is dragging someone down. One of my online mentors, David Shands from the Social Proof podcast, says that he had to stop listening to Mary J. Blige all the time because he's like, dude, I'm like looking to try and find someone to marry, and all I'm in my soundtrack is pain and loss and grief, and like no shade to Mary J, right? Like she's an incredible performer, but I am trying to be mindful of that, knowing that certain music has certain time and place in my life. So I'm not listening to like anything that's super hardcore, that's super aggressive on my way to school. That is not the feeling I'm trying to cultivate. So I know what I need in that. Maybe you are different. Maybe you're leaving school and you're like, no, we're going Rage Against the Machine, hardcore music all the way home because I need to have an exorcism of sorts. So, but that's knowing what you need. Maybe it's quiet. I know that my wife will often drive in the car. I don't know how she does this with nothing on. It's just quiet. There's no music. There's not a podcast. It's just silence. And she said, she's like, I don't have enough silence in my life. So this is where I get it when I'm just driving in the car. Maybe that is what you need. Maybe it is laughter. I'll tell you that one of the things I started doing in the last, year, there's a podcast called Smartless with Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and one of the guys from Will and Grace, whose name is escaping me right now, Sean, I think. It's just funny. It's just silly. It is the way they talk to one another is the way that my friends and I talk to one another all the time, where there's a sort of this making fun of each other, but in a way that is like loving and kind of nonsensical and stuff. And so that is something that I've listened to in the last few months to a year, because it puts me in a space of just like being outside of my normal and recentering me. The other thing you want to be mindful of is how long do you need? Do you need 2 minutes? Do you need 10 minutes? Are you the dad that goes to the bathroom for 30 minutes because you just need a break in your life? And so it's being mindful of those things, of how long you need and what do you need. The other thing real quick is, how are you getting home too? So if we're talking about driving home, there are days that I'll take a little bit of a longer route. It takes me another 5-10 minutes, but I want to drive through a neighborhood that I think is pretty. I want to drive through a neighborhood in the fall here in the Northeast that has great leaves. I live in the gritty city area. And so I want to take myself on a route that is just by looking at, I don't even have to get out of the car. I'm just feeling the energy of this place. And that's a little bit better for me. The next thing I think that's being mindful of in this particular scenario is boundaries, right? We all know about boundaries. We've heard about boundaries, but do we practice boundaries? I'm not really sure. I would say, especially for this particular question, if you are part-time, you work part-time. Schools that have you work part-time, but then you have tons of emails for the rest of the business day, that you have tons of work that you have to make up, is not realistic. And I think oftentimes schools are trying to get more out of you than they're willing to pay for. They only have the money to pay part-time, but what they want is full-time. The flip side of that is, look, everyone has work that they take home, especially in the beginning. There's not a job I can think of in the world, unless you're checking in, checking out, doing something like a retail job where you are stocking shelves or something of that nature. I remember those jobs, and that was different. But when I worked construction, it wasn't the same. If I've ever had some sort of leadership or management position, you're still bringing stuff home because you're at least thinking about it when you come home. Taking work home doesn't just mean you're writing something or typing something. It means you're processing on and on. So it's having those boundaries of, I do not answer emails after this time. So one of the things I tell parents all the time is, I don't answer emails unless it's during school hours. I actually set an autoresponder on my emails when I was in the classroom that said, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. Please know that I will get back to you by end of the business day tomorrow, no matter what. Because if it was important enough, then there's other avenues to respond to. But the other point real quick on emails is this. Emails can be very triggering, right? You get an email when you're at home and you can't necessarily do anything about it because you have to pull in someone. You have to talk to someone's caseworker, the social worker at school, the principal, the vice principal, another teacher. So reading things when you can't do anything about them is really a waste of your time. All it's doing is filling you with anxiety and with worry. So answering emails during school hours just makes more sense, or during a time when you have access to those folks that you might need to be in collaboration with to handle a particular issue, is just best practice. And so having those boundaries is important, because what it's going to do is set you up for this next part, which is getting a hobby, right? Like look at that. I don't know where I even found this picture. It's like people on a Segway. This guy's got all sleeved out and they're playing, I guess that's cricket or polo on a Segway. All right, I don't know. Anyway, the idea of having a hobby, of having something else to do in your life, is incredibly important. Now, why is this important? Because as it turns out, having a hobby, aside from just filling you up, right? One of the reasons it fills you up, it has these two like really great pieces about it, right? I'm not a neurologist. I am not a scientist, right? So just on the front end. But having a hobby, having something you do outside of school that takes all of your mental, your cognitive abilities, right? You're conscious about what you're doing, is that what this is doing is it is giving you a break from other things, right? So when I know one of the things I used to do after school, and I'm laughing because it was very hard and it was absurd. No one ever wanted to go with me, was I would do hot yoga after school. You can't go to hot yoga where it's like almost 100 degrees in a room. You're so sweaty that every single pose you're holding, I'm not even a flexible dude, right? I don't even give you the idea that I'm Sting over here or something, right? I am like the least flexible person, which is part of the reason I was going to hot yoga. So I'm in hot yoga class and I am trying to hold a pose that I'm being instructed to do, but you're so sweaty, it takes all of your mind share to hold it and not fall down, because you don't want to be the guy that slips in hot yoga. You don't want to be the guy that falls over in hot yoga. So I am in there with all these flexible young people trying to do my thing. And what I found was that it was a reprieve from my day. It was a conscious interruption from all of the stuff that was happening in my day. Now, what happens, the other beautiful thing that happens in this, neuroscience shows us that when you occupy your conscious mind, your subconscious has a way of unraveling problems, of looking at things differently. When we're so bound up, it's really, really hard in the moment to think about what you're going to do, how you're going to handle something, which is why in the middle of class is a really difficult time to problem solve. So you're actually giving your subconscious a break, your consciousness a break, letting your subconscious unravel stuff. The same thing happens when we get a good night's sleep. By getting a good night's sleep, you are actually allowing your brain to figure things out on its own. And then that's why a lot of times for those of you that run, or you go to the gym, or you're even in the shower, you'll have like these aha moments, like these, oh, that's what I should do, because you're actually giving yourself a break, which is allowing you to, in your subconscious, figure these things out. So I think that's important. Now, look, the last thing I kind of want to speak to is, there's a caveat here, right? And my caveat is, I know that many of you, you have to come home, you have to do the dishes, you have to do the laundry, you have to fold clothes, you have to take care of the dog, you have to take care of the kids. There's a laundry list of things that you have to fix or clean or do around your house. There are other things, right? Maybe you're taking care of a family member, you are really active in your community, your kids have 97 activities that they have to be a part of. So how can I ever get a part of this? It is really being, so my caveat is that, look, I understand that there are some of these things, but I would say that, when I'm thinking about this stuff, it really comes down to this, I think is a rather simple choice. And I'll explain my answer, right? I think you have to choose your heart, right? When you're trying to think, I don't even know what that is, a sloppy Joe. Like maybe you're having a sloppy Joe, and I don't know who's stoked about that, but maybe there are people out there, you just want some manwich, or a banana. What you're doing is you're choosing your hard. In your life, every single thing you decide is going to be hard, right? If you are in a marriage that is not going well, right? The hard is we're going to go to therapy. We're going to do the work. I'm going to start listening. There are things in play that I'm trying to get better at my marriage with. You could do that, but it's really hard. It's so hard to go to with your spouse to family or couples therapy. You know what else is hard? Living a life that's miserable. Living a life that you can't stand when that other person talks, when they come into the room. Having a classroom that is well led, right? So our classroom management's on point. Our lessons are on point. Our connections with students is on point is really hard. It takes a lot of work to do. The flip side, going into a classroom that has no classroom management, no leadership ability, it is utter chaos every single day is also really hard. Now, when I think of these, right, I have to choose my hard. The answer, though, is if I put in the work, I am far more likely to get the outcome that I prefer than if I just do the other one, right? The other one allows me to I have to shut down. And shutting down might feel comfortable for a moment, but it's not comfortable for a lifetime. It is filled with apathy. It is filled with pessimism. It is filled with a sense of like, I have no control over anything in my life. And no one wants to live that. So it's really being mindful of knowing, and look, putting in the work, I will say, does not always guarantee an outcome. I've had classes it didn't work with. I know friends that have been in relationships where they put in all the work and it still didn't work out, but I'm still getting better as a person. I'm still growing into the person I need to be to do the work I've been given to do. So there's no downside to putting in the work, right? So if you are building up a person that is a person of discipline, a person that is hopeful, a person that tries, a person that doesn't give up no matter what. And so when we choose our hard, when we choose to do the work to put those things forward, even if that is giving ourselves to ourselves, even if that is putting ourselves first, even if that is saying, honey, I need it. I know it takes me 2 minutes to get home from work. I'm taking the 15-minute drive or the 20-minute drive, or I'm going to go to the food store first, or I'm going to stop at the gym, or I'm in hot yoga now, which is, it's not a thing. I don't know if people say they're into hot yoga. I think they suffer through it because that's what I did. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm going with this. That's what I'm thinking about. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'd be happy to do that. And look, if you need anything else, you can always reach us right at realrapwithreynolds.com. Whether that's you're looking for a speaker for this summer's professional development, you're looking for mentorship, you're looking for, whatever else. All the links and everything is right through realrapwithreynolds.com. And that's it, gang. If we can help with anything else, please let us know. And yeah, have a great week. Peace.